Hey, Moses here, and this video is being shot on a Sony A6700 with a Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. I have a lot of good things to say about this camera, but this video is targeted to that person that wants to do podcasting or long form content with this camera. Man, do I have a lot to say about this. First of all, I'm coming from a Sony ZV-E10, the first version of it, and I do a lot of video podcasting. So I got this camera with the idea that I am upgrading, but I also wanted a bit more functionality, and the idea of getting 4K 30 frames per second using USB-C was just was a huge selling point for me because I travel relatively often, even though I don't share it on this channel. The less cables that I can bring with me, the better. If you are thinking about buying this camera for video podcast, please listen carefully because you are in the same bucket as I was about 10 days ago when I bought this camera. Do not buy this camera for video podcasting unless you are going to be in an environment that is relatively cold, because this camera overheats like there's no tomorrow. I've done the software upgrade on it and everything. I've tried every single thing under the sun to keep this camera cool. Unless you're going to buy a fan, I highly discourage you from buying this camera for long form video content, simply because it overheats too easily. And for me, my podcast runs anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. And I just hate the idea of having to think about, is this camera going to overheat as I'm recording? It really sucks. I've ran all kinds of different tests. Yes, sometimes it will go 3 hours without overheating, but then sometimes it will overheat at 45 minutes. It is inconsistent. I don't really understand the design flaw or what makes it overheat. I did buy a small fan for it, and maybe you can see the white cable just behind the camera there. That's where the fan is currently plugged in, and it does the job amazingly so. It's by Ulanzi or something. So far, that's worked really well. Now, I am in a relatively cool state, but in the next 10 days or so, I'm gonna be in a relatively warm environment, so my views might change on it. But for now, the small fan that I have in the back of it works fantastic. I have zero overheating issues, and it will run on its own, the fan, as long as it's plugged in. It will run indefinitely. So for that reason, I've decided to keep the camera, because otherwise it is an amazing camera. And the fact that I have the 16mm Sigma 16mm 1.4 on it is just it's just amazing camera. I can't say enough good things about it. It's just, if you're gonna be using it for podcasting, please do not buy it unless you are going to buy some sort of a fan, or the environment that you're gonna be recording in is a relatively cool environment. It's the uncertainty of when the camera will overheat that just drives me absolutely bananas. So hopefully I did not upset those of you that love this camera. I am in your team. I actually really do like this camera. It's just, if I could figure out a way to not make it overheat, obviously I have already, and I'm now content with it, but now I have to travel with this little fan with me everywhere that I go. At the end of the day, this is a fantastic camera. Don't get me wrong. It's just, if you're gonna be doing a video podcast, think twice or have systems in place to make sure that the camera stays cool. Okay, if you're thinking about starting a podcast or growing your podcast, check out my podcast challenge community in the link below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.